Welcome, everyone, to Music Junkies, a podcast about people sharing extraordinary stories about how music has impacted their lives.
So welcome, Jennifer, right, to Music Junkies. This is exciting. Again, another referral from another lady that was on my show. She said you were incredible. I'm excited to have you. Part of the reason why I'm excited to have you is just kind of your background, right? International music keynote speaker, international transformation coach. And I'm going to give you some time to go over your websites because I thought they were just absolutely amazing. And then not a one-time bestseller, but a two-time international bestseller. So please help me welcome, Junkies, Jennifer Jerald, to the scene today. Yeah, way to go, Jen. Love it.
Hello.
So I have to say, it took you months to put this playlist together, Jen. What the hell was holding you up? You're just so popular that it took forever. And then I don't want you to answer that yet, because when you sent me the email, I understood why it took you forever. You literally did my whole entire podcast. I could literally play a song and just read the story, and I wouldn't even actually need you. I could just have this fake picture of you. So it sounds like you might have a little bit of control issues. I don't know. We might have to dive into that.
Oh dear. What? Control issues? No.
So what was it like putting your playlist together?
Well, once I finally duct taped myself to the chair, so I would stop getting distracted with all the other things going on in my life. I think what was fun for me when I got done and I proofread it before I sent it, I was like, I just wrote another book. And I just laughed a little, but it was so fun because I know that music matters to me and I know that songs mean something to me. But to actually be challenged to sit down for this event today and really write out why they matter. Wow, it hit me so hard. First, how much music means to me, how powerful it is in my life, and how powerful it is for others, and why I love not only to listen to it, but to write it and perform it as well.
Yeah, I love that. It's so true. This is why I love doing this podcast. This is my favorite part, is this kind of going through people's songs, hearing their stories, getting a different type of connections instead of such a superficial connection. How's the weather? How you doing? When we don't really care how the weather is and we really don't care how you're doing. So I love that I get to dive deep and it's just a very different connection. And I love those different connections. So we're going to start with your first song. It is your song, which is really, really awesome, which makes me excited. Are you ready? So I'm going to play a little clip and I would love for you to tell me what the song is called, and then we can dive into what it means to you.
Okay.
It's been said. You do have a beautiful voice, I have to say.
Thank you. That song is called Sitting on the Sidelines, and it was inspired by my good friend, dear friend, mentor and colleague, Jason W. Freeman. And he's the author of Awkwardly Awesome, Embracing Your Imperfect Best. And I first met Jason a few years ago. Sort of met Jason a few years ago, meaning I was introduced to his message. A friend of mine posted a 4-minute little video clip of several of Jason's motivational speeches. And I was so touched by his story because not only is he a international best-selling author and a powerful motivational speaker, he has a speech impediment because he has cerebral palsy. And it just blew my mind. And his message was so powerful. And I was going through a major transformation in my life. I had just gotten divorced. I was trying to figure out who I was and what was going to happen. And I just started tinkering around with writing music. And I went, I have to write a song about this. This is amazing. So I reached out to our mutual colleague, Dr. Steve Taubman. I said, this is awesome. I want to write a song, but I don't know how this works. Less than 24 hours later, I'm on the phone with Jason W. Freeman, talking to him about his message and what I would like to do with it. And with his absolute blessing, he said,
Wow.
please write a song. 45 minutes later, that song was born. And I had the opportunity to share it with him about 2 weeks later. It's evolved since the original layout, and he is still my #1 fan of it.
I love it. It's interesting how heartache or, going through something can go and get you to create some lyrics. So let's kind of go back. So how long were you married for?
My first marriage, I was married for just shy of 15 years.
Wow. So how did the relationship start to break?
Oh, there was a lot of things. There was a lot of disconnect. Unfortunately, he had a little problem with opioids.
Okay.
I'll say that quietly because my homeschool daughter is in the other room. So that was really challenging. That was really tough. But ultimately, the slow burn and slow realization was that I was married to a verbally abusive, narcissistic spouse. And I actually just wrote a chapter about this in a new book that's coming out in January. Behind Closed Doors, I Survived Domestic Violence. You can too.
Wow.
So that was really the end. And as I share in my chapter, the last time he berated me for 2.5 hours and then wanted to love up on me, the broken girl still had some fire in her. And I rose up. That's why my logo is a phoenix, the rising phoenix on the cover of my book. The phoenix was in a burn, and she came up in a fury and said, we're done. This is over. Go.
So when you look back at that relationship, obviously you've grown, you've moved on from that relationship. But when you go back and think, did you feel like all of that stuff were red flags in the very beginning, but because you were in love, you just kind of set them aside?
Oh yeah, they were definitely red flags. And I don't know that I was in love. See, I was desperate. I was an old hag in my upbringing's book. I was 26 years old. I should have had 4 or 5 children by then. But I hadn't even been married for the first time. So I met this guy. We were sort of similar. At the time, we were pretty equally yoked. And over time, I evolved, and he did as well, but in a different way. And things started to go this way, and then it got worse and worse, and it got scarier. And I realized, just like that song, I was sitting on the sidelines of my life. I was waiting for somebody to call me in and play the game. But I was the coach. I was the captain. I was the one that could be and should be and would be in charge of my best me. And I just, it's like, it was time. It was time to say, enough is enough. I don't have to do this. I have no idea how I'm going to figure this out, but that'll come later. All I knew was I needed to do something different.
Yeah. Do you feel like it was time to move on, time to get out? Was that the scariest part of leaving, or was it like excited at the same time?
I think there was no excitement at all, because I felt like a failure in my religion. I felt like a failure in life. I knew I was going to have to figure out how to provide for myself and make more money and take care of my children. And I had no idea how it was all going to happen. I had no clue. The only thing I knew was that I was not going to live like that anymore, period.
I love it.
And I was going to have to take it one step at a time. And as awful as it was, in a lot of ways, in everything, this is what I talk about all the time, in everything, every experience is an opportunity to reflect, ignite, shine, and elevate, which spells rise. So the only difference between a tragedy and a triumph are the choices we make in between. We have the opportunity to rise from ashes to amazing every day. The choice is up to us.
Yeah, I love that you said that. So I'm going to play this next song because I think you have an incredible story behind it, and it will really filter in nice with what you just shared.
I don't believe it.
So I know personally why you love that song, but I want you to share your story about that song to the audience.
Yeah, Cover the Rolling Stones by Dr. Hook. Okay, so we just talked about my divorce. So I was 2 days divorced, and I had scheduled a big karaoke party under cover. We called it Celebration of New Beginnings, but really, let's say what it was. It was a karaoke divorce party. And I was there with about 20 plus of my friends. We were having a great time. And towards the end of the night, this man came across the way, and he said, "Sing this with me." And he pulled me up out of my friends group. And I was like, "Well, what are we singing?" And he says, "Cover the Rolling Stone." I had no idea what this song was. None. I was like, all right. But I was free, and I was feeling excited and courageous and adventurous. And so I was like, okay, let's do this. So we get up, we muggle through the song. He knew what he was doing. And I was like, okay, well, you can pull out some harmony or something. So I just kind of had fun with it. And it was so much fun. And my friends were just dying because I don't normally like to do kamikazes. I like to make mistakes. But he had such a fun smile, and he had been having fun all night. I'd kind of seen him throughout the night. And that started a beautiful friendship. And then that evolved a little bit more from the friendship to the, hey, I kind of like you. And June 20th of last year, that same gentleman married me and my daughter. And we are now husband and wife. And so that's the song that started it all. It was so much fun.
So what did you learn from your previous marriage that you weren't going to accept bringing into your new marriage?
Well, I watched for red flags. I knew that I didn't want to date somebody who was addicted to video games. That seemed to be a thing about the guys my age. It was like video games and pornography. Like, are you kidding me? You got nothing better to do than to play knick-knack, paddywhack, give a dog a bone all day long. You can't grow up right now? Yeah. So if any boys out there are listening, and I say boys, if you're a grown-ass man and you're playing video games, grow up. Okay, that's my little soapbox. Sorry.
And then you're going and playing on your bone after you play.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they got their joystick and they're just having a good time. I don't get it. So I knew I didn't want to date a guy my age because they had all lost their brain somewhere. And so he was a little bit older, and he's a hard worker. He's like a man's man. I mean, like, swings an axe, chops wood, fixes cars, builds things. I mean, he was so loyal and so dedicated. I saw loyalty in his love for his children and his grandchildren. There's about a 14-year difference between us. As my friend, he came over and he replaced my porch light, and he helped me get my yard all pretty, and could tell I was a struggling single mom. I was like, I was just trying to keep the roof over the head, forget the grass, and so he was such a hard worker, and he had been at his company for over 30 years, and he was doing well. Now he sometimes thinks that I liked him because he was, established, if you will. And I was like, no way, dude. I mean, it was helpful. I mean, at least you weren't on the street corner begging for money. You weren't looking for a sugar mama, although he jokes about that. He's like, you're gonna be my sugar mama, right, when I retire.
Yeah, roles are starting to reverse here, right?
Yeah, right. We're gonna trade places here soon, and that's okay, because he is so young at heart. He absolutely loves my daughter. She calls him her bonus dad. And so she gets mad when he calls her she goes, I am not your stepdaughter. I'm your bonus daughter. And he's like, okay. So now he knows better not to say stepdaughter because she gets scolded. But his heart was so beautiful. And he was so full of energy and passion and service, and quality time mattered to him, and doing things for the people that he loved mattered to him.
Yeah.
And if he said he was going to do something, he did it.
Wow.
And it was wonderful. I know. He's like, whoa, was that follow through? And so it's just wonderful. And he's, he's goal driven, and what is the word I'm looking for?
He just sounds amazing.
Can you see it? So, he's not perfect. We have our moments.
Yeah, for sure. So I want you to tell me
you have to come to Jesus, but it's okay.
I want you to tell me a traffic sign that best describes your love life.
A traffic sign? There isn't one that allows that. Saying. Because you got yield signs, no. You got stop signs, Well, I guess it would be the green light.
Yeah, it's constant go.
Green light. He says that's what keeps him young. I found this young girl, she keeps me young. But I would say green light. I don't know, maybe Christmas lights to Mannheim Steamroller, keeping the beat. I
want you to name something that your husband thinks he does well, but doesn't.
He thinks he listens. Well, but he doesn't.
Not very well. I think
he listens sometimes.
Like, is it 60% of the time, or is it like a high 90s?
I would say he's in the 80s. Yeah. Yeah, the best genre of music right there, the 80s. So we'll give him a pass because he's in the 80s for listening.
All right, you ready for your next song?
Yeah, let's do it.
So some Amy Grant. Breath of Heaven.
Oh, Breath of Heaven. First of all, it's a beautiful piece. And second of all, like I shared in my email about that song, I love that song. So for the listeners who haven't heard that song or don't know what that song is about, it is Amy Grant. She's singing the depiction of Mary when she discovers that she is carrying the Savior of the world, and her fear and her overwhelm. She's like, could you have not picked somebody? There's got to be somebody better than me in her song. And then she leans in to just trusting God in the process. And I have a testimony of the Savior. He's a huge part of my life. So that piece matters to me. And I am touched by that and moved by that. I'm going to get through this without crying. So why I secondarily love that song is in my journey to motherhood. It's all I ever wanted. As a kid, my Barbies were always pregnant, and I was always pregnant, although that didn't happen in real life real fast. And so at the age of 35, I'm a little old. I was born and raised where people start having babies at like 18, and I'm 35. I'm like, I even had people ask after my baby was born if she was my granddaughter. I was like, do I look that old? But at 35 years old, I finally, after 9 years of trying and 9 rounds of fertility, found out that I was going to be a mom. Mm-hmm. And it was so exciting. And then just like Mary, although I wasn't carrying the Savior of the world, that fear and that doubt and that overwhelm of, can I really do this? Really just settled in. And so that song always gave me peace to remember that just like Mary had to trust in God, and trust the process, I too could trust in God and trust the process and take the journey to motherhood. As hard as it was going to be, or as perfect it was going to be, I didn't know. And motherhood happened, and it was not easy. Didn't look like anything I had pictured in my mind.
Whatever I wanted to lie.
I was like, what? I'm 35. This should be easy, right? Like, I'm practically a grandma, but now I'm a mom. And I had so much practice with all my nieces and nephews and friends' children, but it was more of a challenge than I ever expected. And so I had to lean in, listen, be willing to fail so that I could get back up and try again.
I love it.
And now my daughter and I have,
right?
yes, I have a daughter. She's 12 now.
So when you were going through all of this stuff, obviously there's probably a lot of stress affiliated with trying to get pregnant for 9 years. Did you use lots of different types of methods?
We did everything but in vitro. I refused to do in vitro because I was like, I am not about to have a litter. Mm-mm. And I was terrified that if we did in vitro, they'd all take. And then I'd be like, I'm 5'1". I ain't got room for all that business. So thankfully, we did not have to do in vitro. And we had our one beautiful miracle, the only pregnancy I've ever had.
What's one thing your daughter has taught you?
My daughter has taught me to allow her to be her. I've had to put away some of the things that I was raised with and just allow her to be her. And she's very creative. She has an imagination like nobody's business. She can pound out a 850-page novel in 3 days.
Wow.
And she's just dynamic. And it took us 3 years to read an entire book series. And she said, Mom, it's my turn. So
Wow.
now she's reading one of her favorite series to me. And so we just snuggle up for hours and do that. And just allowing her to be free, to be herself without the need to control her and make her into who I think she should be.
Yeah.
I guide her, nurture her, and trust God in the process of her becoming her.
I love it. What did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a rock star.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a professional performer and an onstage singer, and I wanted to be a mom. Those were the two things I wanted. I wanted to be a mom and I wanted to be a rock star.
What kind of rock star did you want to be? Think of an 80s rock star. Who would best suit your personality when you were growing up that you wanted to be?
My dad always called me his little Bette Midler.
Nice. I love it.
He did. He always called me his little Bette. Every time I sang, he'd say, "You're my little Bette." And so I wanted to be a performer. And Bette Midler was so good, like in the movie Beaches. That's what I wanted to be, where I could be whatever I wanted. I didn't have to be one thing. And so I guess maybe a musical, in plays and productions.
Yeah. So when you were growing up, was that encouraged or discouraged?
Oh, I was so discouraged. Still. It was so discouraged. It was prideful and it was arrogant, and I was seeking the limelight and trying to outshine people. And I believed it. And so I was like, okay. I just stepped away and stepped back, but inside there was always that ember.
Yeah.
Always that ember.
So how did that get reignited again?
I wrote my book.
and
I had this whole chapter 3 of all these things I've been told my whole life. And then in becoming a coach, I realized that those were all limiting beliefs. And then a friend of mine, one of my mentors, Forbes Riley, she said, "Do you know that the word belief has the word lie right in the middle of it?" And I was like, So I drew a little picture of it during my class with her, and it was amazing. And so now I just tell myself and my clients and whoever wants to hear it, here's a tip for how to ignite your life. That lie in the middle, so it's BELIEF. We're going to go backwards. F that lie and be whatever the hell you want to be, because ain't nobody was put on this earth to be you but you.
Yeah, I love that.
So be who you want to be, because you're going to F the lie and be.
Yeah,
and so that's what I'm doing. I'm effing all those lies and becoming what I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, that's a mic drop right there for sure.
Oh wait, I have one. It's a big one though, so I won't drop it, but.
I love it. All right, we're gonna do another one of your songs. Are you ready?
Woo-hoo. Okay.
Believe. It's such a pretty song. I love the songs you sent me.
Oh, thank you. They are currently under construction and the CD will be coming out soon. Stay tuned. So Believe is the very first song I ever wrote. I've been singing for years, but I'd not started writing songs until about 3.5 years ago. I didn't even know how to play guitar until 3.5 years ago.
Wow.
I know, right? I watched people, but Believe is in parentheses under the copyright for this song is called Brian's song. My husband's name is Brian, and I was born and raised in a heavy religious environment, very strict, lots of, and it was my mom, really, but a lot of shame and guilt and a little cloud of you're not perfect. And I thought there was no God, and if there was a God, he certainly hated me. Somehow I was on his hit list because my life had been crap. And when Brian and I first became friends and started hanging out, he said, oh, I like to pray before I go to bed. And we were like in the parking lot because we weren't in bed, you know. He went, but he wanted to pray with me before we went our separate ways. And so I was like, well, who's going to pray? Because prior to that, the last time I prayed, I asked God to kill me, and he didn't. So I was pretty sure there wasn't one at that point in my life. So after about 3 months of him saying prayers, he asked me to pray. He's like, well, I've been saying it. Why don't you say it? And I was like, oh crap. I was like, oh, I don't know how this is going to go. And so I thought of this little church song that I learned as a kid on how to pray. And I was like, girl, you've been doing this your whole life. Okay, it's been a couple of years, but okay, you can do this. And I go, all right. And I just took this big, deep breath and this big, ginormous exhale. And I uttered my first prayer in over 2 years. And at the end of my prayer, he was weeping. He had tears streaming down his face. And he said he almost felt like he was intruding in a private conversation between me and God. And so we have this little argument about who taught who how to pray. And I was like, no, you taught me how to pray. He said, no. You taught me how to pray with purpose. I was kind of like repetitive. And there were times like you would pause and I thought, did she fall asleep? Is she done? But you were just like thinking, what am I going to say next? I'm having a conversation with God. And so it was kind of in that moment where I realized that for the first time, I had watched him pray and I had seen his answers come. And I'm like, he's not perfect. He drinks beer. And because I was raised not to drink and I was raised not to smoke and I was raised not to do coffee and all these things. And I was struggling. And so I didn't think I could pray. And here's this guy and he likes his whiskey and he likes his beer and he's praying and God's answering him. I'm like, oh, I think there's a flaw somewhere in my thinking. And so this song, Believe, is my journey back to faith through the example that he set throughout his life. One of the verses says, I've always walked the straight line, doing what I'm told. I think, hold on, I can't do it without singing. I've always wanted this street, doing what I'm told. That preacher man, he told me God would save my soul. But every time I turn around, I was breaking rules. It always felt impossible to find my way through. And Brian taught me in the chorus to, I can't do it without singing. Isn't that stupid? Hold on. Bow your head, bend your knees, bow your head. Anyway, you'll have to hear the song when it comes out because I can't do it without singing it.
What's your relationship with your parents now?
My relationship with my parents is still strained. My dad is really blown away. He's like, God, I can't. Like I just wrote the new song that's also in the list all along. I just wrote that and I couldn't believe it. It was like so beautiful and so powerful. And so I called my mom. I wanted to share it with her. And she's like, in time, I'm busy. And that's typically her response, you know? And I was like, oh, okay. And then I thought, like this crazy kid, you know, the moth to the flame, right? They just keep going, even if it's a little spicy. And so I called my dad and I said, hey, Dad, I just wrote this new song and it is so beautiful. And I would just love to share it with you. And he said, well, all right, let's hear it. And I was like, whoa. And so my dad and I are definitely on a different plane than my mom and I. My mom and I get better and then whoosh, it goes backwards. And then we try again and it goes backwards. And that's, you know, just part of life. You learn, you got to love people where they're at and choose how to let them in.
Yeah, that's the hardest part. Like I look at, you know, I'm kind of estranged from my family as well. My mom is still an addict. Oh. And I look at that and I've had like over time have to kind of accept that, right? I know I'm going to get these crazy random phone calls. I know that like she's just going to doesn't even understand what she's even saying. She doesn't, you know, how old her grandkids are, which are like in their 20s and getting married and like just no sense. And I fought it for so long. I remember fighting it for so long. Your analogy about the moth going to the flame, it's like, why the fuck am I still doing this? Why am I answering her call? Why am I picking up the phone? Why am I listening to this stuff? Like, what did I do so wrong that like, or what am I trying to learn from this? Like, please just fucking tell me what I'm supposed to learn from this. And obviously I wasn't learning. And then finally it was acceptance was, I don't get to like a 95 when she calls. Right. I'm like, calm now. I can handle the crazy. Before it would just be like, it would just send me for a loop. And I just have to just accept who she is. And one day maybe she'll get better. One day maybe she won't. But I have to go and fill that void with just loving myself more than.
Absolutely. Learning to detach with love for her or him, whoever that person might be in our lives or the listeners' lives, to detach with love, detach from them because their actions are not personal, and detach with love, like you just said, for yourself. Love yourself enough to not let that continue. And I say this is a boundaries thing, and that boundaries are not a wall or a barrier, but a picket fence around our garden of serenity to which we control the gate of entry. And so we get to choose, do we continue to fly to the flame or do we just fly above it and enjoy the warmth instead of the burn?
Yeah, I love that. Well, this song is going to be fitting for that for sure.
All right.
I won't just survive.
Katy Perry, Rise.
Yes. Oh, first time I heard this song, I was like, oh. And then I went and downloaded it because I had to hit it on repeat. And now I can play it on my piano and sing with the accompaniment that I do myself. And I actually rewrote the ending myself. I have a different ending because I like it better.
Yeah.
But that'll come out on a cover CD later.
That's right. When you guys do a duet or something.
Friggin' okay, so I saw the video of this and she's drowning and I'm like, whoo, triggers. But because I almost drowned as a child and she's coming up from underneath the parachute, but I was like, this doesn't even fit. She's talking about vultures and flames and why are you drowning? Anyway, so side note, So I get these little baddie tweakers every now and then. If you ever saw Fern Gully, you know, Baddie's got a, yeah, that's me right there. So, but this song, I love it because the chorus says, when the fire's at your feet again and the vultures all start circling and they're whispering, you're out of time, but still I rise. And the phoenix, the rising phoenix, I don't care if it's a mythical bird or not. That baby is my logo. That baby is my spirit animal. And that baby is my avatar. And my avatar is also connected to a Disney character that we find out later is a phoenix. Oh yeah, Maleficent. So sorry if I killed it for anybody. It's been out for a few years. You're a little late. But Maleficent is the most powerful phoenix, the last of her kind. And boy, when I saw that, I was like, I was so excited. It was so exciting. But the phoenix is my thing. I have a tattoo of a phoenix, which I got shortly after I locked myself in a car and tried to die 6 years ago, going through the divorce and mental illness and depression. And we talked about that verbal abuse. He had told me multiple times that I was a horrible person. I should just kill myself. And so here I am in a allegorical kind of a way. I locked myself in a hot car. It was 103 degrees outside, 148 degrees inside after 2.5 hours. Girl, it was supposed to take 20 damn minutes. So whoever's reporting this 20-minute thing, you're fired. Or I was just really fat and I had way too much water and food storage. One of the two, I survived, but it was hot, really hot. And I got out and rose. So I was a phoenix in that moment. Yeah. It didn't come to me later. Somebody actually else pointed that out to me. But I love that song because what I've learned about myself, and I continue to learn about myself, is when it looks like I am burning, watch out, because that just means I'm coming back bigger, better, and stronger. And you might want to get out of the way.
Yeah. What were you thinking about in that moment in the car? Like, that's a long time to be sitting there waiting.
Yeah, I was thinking about my life, all the things that I had wanted to do that I didn't do. I was thinking about the brand new mental health diagnosis that I had just gotten. I felt like a monster, and I thought that maybe my ex-husband was right, and maybe I should just kill myself. Maybe the world would be better off without me. And I had so much torment from years of abuse that started when I was just 6 years old, sexual, physical, verbal abuse, which just paved this delicious path of pain and hell throughout my life. Poor choices, failed relationships, guilt, shame, sin. I mean, the only thing I was good at was sinning, according to how I had been brought up. And I thought, well, side note, I was doing this in the parking lot of the church. And I thought maybe just maybe I'll get halfway to heaven if I die at church, because I didn't figure I was going to get even halfway, because I had been so programmed to believe that I was just this big, fat, failing sinner, and I was never going to make it.
Did you have any thoughts kind of just poke in to say, maybe you shouldn't do this?
No, I just kept waiting. I kept thinking, okay, eventually I'm just going to go to sleep, and then I don't have to think anymore. And I don't know if it was in the moment that I might have slipped into that final moment of sleep. There was a tap on my window, and it was my bishop at church. And I was like, are you kidding me? I am freaking still here? Ah! So I was so mad. So I rolled down I couldn't roll down my window because I had to turn my car on, but I opened my door and I said, what? And I was sweaty and groggy and mad. Whew, I was a little confused. I was like, whatever. And he said, do I need to call somebody? I said, for what? I was just taking a nap. And I snapped at him. But I was totally lying to myself.
Yeah.
But I didn't want anyone else to know what I was going through. And I think that we do that. We lock up inside and we think we're the only one in pain, but we're not. And so, I mean, I said, no, I'm fine, go. And I sent him off. And in that moment, that's when I had to decide, do I lay back and wait to die? Or get out of that car, and learn to live? I chose to get out and live. I didn't know how. I felt dead from years of abuse and pain and suffering, but I knew that I had children depending on me.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn to live for them. And in the process, I've learned how to live for me.
Yeah. I feel like you driving to the church and doing it there was an underlining way to survive as well.
More than likely, maybe I felt closer to God and he maybe talked me out of it.
Yeah.
I think everything that we do and every choice that we make is symbolic in some way. And when we take the time to sit back and reflect, we can see what we're supposed to. Just this morning, my husband and I read, we read every morning together from Al-Anon Literature. And this morning was amazing and said, every single day we're going to face one of two people, our teacher or our mirror. And when we find ourselves struggling, it's our opportunity to say, is this my teacher or is this my mirror? And what gift does this person have for me?
Yeah. And I feel like I'm giving you lots of gifts today. So I'm probably on the teacher side.
You know it. I mean, we could both be teachers today, I think.
All right, let's pick it up.
Let's do
I
it.
love this song. Such a fun song. Walk on the moon. Love to dance.
Dude, get up and dance. I would, but I'm in a chair and I didn't want to raise the thing during the interview. I love this song. It came up on a Genius playlist one day and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cute. Because I love good upbeat. I love to dance around my office and dance around the house and clean. And then my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, said, oh my gosh, that's a cute song. I was like, isn't it though? So he added it to his playlist and we listened to it for a little while. And then he proposed to me on my birthday in 2020. And we were married 4 months later. So I'm like, boy, we've been dating for 4.5 years. We don't need no long engagement. Let's do this. And so we did. And it was cute when we were trying to pick out music for our wedding. You know, what I was gonna walk down the aisle to, what was our first dance gonna be, he says, babe, we met singing karaoke. I think we should sing for our processional. I was like, oh, well, what should we do? Should we do Sonny and Cher? He goes, no, let's do this one. And he hits play and I'm like, oh, we could totally make that a duet. Oh, don't you dare look back, just keep your eyes on me. And then he comes in. Said you're holding back. She said, shut up and dance with me. And then he comes in, this woman is my destiny. She said, ooh, ooh, shut up and dance with me. And so, I mean, we practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. And so I said, well, we aren't going to have a screen, so you have to memorize it. He's like, oh, no, I got to have the words. I'm like, you are not singing with a piece of paper in front of you. That's silly. You can do this. He's like, no. And so like, it was the only thing he listened to for 2 months prior to our wedding. And I was always like coaching him through and he kept messing up and it was so funny. So we get to our wedding day, the bishop pronounces us husband and wife, and my son had the cue and he hits play and the music starts and we sing our processional. We've got this duet nailed. And then go figure. I messed up. I was so worried about him messing up. I was focusing on his part and not my own. Whoa, how many times do we do that? Focus on someone else's stuff and mess up our own. It was such a life lesson in that moment. But I just kept going. And just like in life, when we focus on other people's stuff, we can't take care of our own. And if that happens and we boo-boo, get up, shut up, dance, and keep going.
That's great. What's the most daring thing you've ever done?
Oh, I'm not very daring. Well, I haven't been. I've been more daring since I met my sweetheart. So I would say probably the scariest, most daring, two things, and they both happened in Hawaii. We went zip lining. Woo! Now that might not seem like a big deal, y'all. But, I don't know if you've hung from a string, hoping you weren't too big for it. And a mile across that waterfall you were just looking at down at the bottom, you up on top of that thing, and you know it's big and you're higher than it and it looks small. Yeah, that's kind of scary. All my cursing narrative on my video would prove that I was scared to death. Anyway, but then I was like, oh, I'm doing it. So that was super scary. And then the second thing was for his birthday 2 years ago, he said, I'm going in helicopter ride for my birthday. And I was like, what? And I don't mind flying in a plane, but flying on a string tied to another string with a hope and a prayer and hopefully not a puddle at the bottom of your shoe, that was kind of scary. And then we get in this helicopter and they're like, do you want doors on your helicopter or no doors? I'm like, what? Doors? Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh, no. So we get up and it starts going like this. And I'm like, oh, it's going to tip over. I've seen this happen. So those are pretty brave for me because I don't like pain and suffering, unless of course it's self-inflicted. So those are my two
all like that
scary,
kind of pain.
my two most scary.
Right? We keep doing it.
Well, because
we
just
like
the night before that helicopter ride, it was the big thing that hit the news about the skydivers plane that never made it off the runway because it exploded. I'm like, are we sure we want to do this tomorrow? So those are pretty daring things because that's like life risking. Oh, that's so scary. And so yeah, those were two of the most daring things I've ever done. Second to just choosing to stay alive. That was pretty brave.
We're going to play another one of your songs. You ready? All right. Wounded Warrior. I love it.
Wounded
Did you
Warrior.
play the piano in that song?
Yes. All of my songs, the accompaniment is all me.
I love it.
So yes, I played the piano for that. That Wounded Warrior is okay. I got this. That was this one's an emotional. This wasn't a labor. This was most definitely a labor of love with a lot of help from above. My incredible, amazing, dynamic, full of life, sassy, piss and vinegar, and class all in one. She's like my little spitting image, I guess. Gorgeous, dynamic, wonderful, beautiful niece was nursing her son in 2018, and she felt a lump, and she thought she had a clogged milk duct, but we found out that in fact it was triple negative invasive ductal carcinoma breast cancer. And she fought and fought and fought like a warrior, but the cancer took her life in just 1 year.
Wow.
And so as much as she tried to stay, she ultimately said goodbye to all of us, including her little boy, who was 2 at the time of her passing. And in my final conversation with her, she wasn't really talking. We all just got to go spend time with her. And the very end, as I was getting ready to leave her room, she opened her eyes and she said, I love you, Aunt Jenny. And I said, I love you more. She said, I love you most. And I loved you first. And this is a girl who had not spoken for 2 days. And I just looked at her and I said, maybe so, baby girl. I have to go. I need to write your song. I promise it'll be done before you go. And that was 14 hours before she took her last breath.
Wow.
And so this song, Wounded Warrior, is her journey. It starts out, life begins with a breath and ends in the same way. 25 years feels like forever when you're looking from today. But when you realize that today is the end of yesterday's forever, you realize then it wasn't forever at all. And it just goes through her path, her journey, her life. And after it was written and recorded, I found out some of the lyrics were actually part of private conversations with other family members that I was not privy to. So that's why I know that it was a labor of love guided from above, and it is one of our favorites.
I love it. It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. We're on your last song.
Woohoo!
Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Into the unknown. Into the unknown.
I think that song's called Into the Unknown.
It is. It is. It's the
Panic at the
Panic at the
Disco.
Disco version
Right, I love
from the movie Frozen 2, which I also quote in my book. Not Into the Unknown, but parts of that movie. So love that song. It has been my alma mater, if you will, my theme song, other than the ones that I've been working on myself that are my own. In 2020, March of 2020, my whole world, along with the rest of the world's, so don't think I'm on my own little pity potty. I'm not, but my world instantly changed, like so many others. And this very room, which is now my office and studio, was for 16 years my nail salon. And that wasn't going to happen anymore. And I had to make a decision, and I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know where I was supposed to go, and I didn't know what I was supposed to do. And we watched this movie, and this song just penetrated everything in me, because there were these voices, healthy voices, in my head.
Those voices.
Healthy voices. But I was ignoring them. And those voices were pulling me and calling me into this new world that I have been built for, forged for, formed for, created for. But it was scary. It was scary because I wanted to stay where I was because it's what I knew. And to be stretched, to listen to that inner voice calling you or me into the unknown, to be willing to take those steps and find when you get there, you found you, the real you, not the you that somebody else built, not the you that somebody else lied to and created those beliefs, but the you who's meant to be here, to do what only you can do. And that's why I love this song, because it's into the unknown. And as she finally listens to those voices, she figures out who she is and what she was meant to do.
Yeah, I feel like you were speaking at me there. I could have started crying. That was a lot. I love it.
Who's the teacher now, sis?
That's right. I got taught today.
I'm just kidding. Okay.
I want you
to make the host cry.
I want you to leave us with some words of wisdom. Obviously, you went through a lot of adversity in life. What is something that you would like to say to somebody that maybe is struggling, going through maybe some of the things that you shared with today, that you can maybe kind of pull them out of the darkness a little bit?
Yes. First of all, you're not alone. If you're feeling it, someone else is feeling it too. And it's okay to reach out. It's okay to say, gosh, I'm not okay today. I just need someone to hear me. I just need someone to sit with me. I just need someone to believe in me. It's okay to say, I need help. Help is not a bad word. It's actually a good word. And if we ask for it sooner, then we don't have to hurt as long. And so just if you're struggling, if you're hurting and you're not sure what to do, where to go, of course you can reach out to me, but find a friend, somebody that you trust. And if you don't trust anyone, try the universe. There's something, someone, or some entity greater than all of us that is listening. And we get to choose what we do every day. We can either fight the hand we're dealt, or we can play the hell out of it and do what only we can do. So remember, the only difference in life between a tragedy and a triumph are the choices we make every day.
I love it. I love it. I want you to share with us where we can find you, right? Talk about your social media platforms, kind of a little bit, website. Tell us what is going on in your life, or we can have you help us if we're looking for that.
All right. So my website's super simple. All my social media is super simple. I don't like kooky fun names because I can't remember all that, but I'll remember your name. My name is Jennifer Jerald, and it's Jennifer with a J, Jerald with a J. So it's jenniferjerald.com. You'll find me at Jennifer Jerald on Facebook. You'll find me at Jennifer M. Jerald, because they made me put my middle initial in there, on Instagram and LinkedIn. And I also have a business page. It's Jennifer Jerald Strategies on Facebook. Pretty much you can find me anywhere. Just Google Jennifer Jerald if you have to, and it'll take you to all my goodies and all my stuff. And I am there. There is a way to contact me on my website. You can contact me through any of the social media links. And as a transformational coach, I do one-on-one and I do group. So if that's something that you're interested in, or sounds like you're like, you know what, I want to talk to this lady, give me a call. You get your complimentary visit. Just click on the link on my website and you'll meet me in a matter of days.
I love it. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for being on the show today. So appreciate you, your time, your stories that you shared, right? Heartbreaking, but triumphant as well. And I just absolutely love it, love it, love it, love it. So I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me, and for our mutual friend who connected us. We love her.
I love it. Perfect. So do you mind just doing a little bit of a Music Junkies testimonial that I can kind of put out there?
Sure.
Oh, okay.
What do you want me to say?
Whatever you want. Like just tell the world how amazing I am and how much fun
okay.
you had.
All right. So, but let me give you the P.O. box for the check later.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'll send it. I don't mind.
All right. Make sure there's a comma in there.
Right.
Maybe two. Okay. Just kidding. So no, this was super fun. It was challenging, but I'm a thinker. So that may be why it was challenging for me. I'm a thinker and I'm a writer. It was so fun to be able to just sit down and spend some time with myself to think about the music that I listen to and the why. And it was fun to go through it, through the questioning, and just to be, I like that it's not rehearsed, that it's not pre-written out. Like, these are the questions I'm going to ask, be ready. I love to speak from the heart. So I love that this was a heart-driven interview. That's super fun, super fantastic. And if you've got a song or 15 you want to share, be sure to reach out to Annette. She'll get you